Pets have been a point of difficulty for a lot of people. I've had a ton of DMs with questions regarding pets, how the pet system works, and various questions regarding efficient pet building and that sort of thing. This guide aims to give you a very baseline understanding of the pet system, and also to provide directions so that you're setting yourself up for what I would consider success with pets. This guide is primarily for new players to the game. As with all my guides, I aim to have the most information possible while also trying to remain as concise and to the point as possible. Make sure you stick around to the end where I explain my thought process on capturing pets so you know what pets you should keep versus which ones you should release. I hope you guys find this video helpful. Before we begin, I want to give a huge shout out to my Discord. The growth has been immense lately and I appreciate all the new faces that I get to interact with. Being able to meet some of the people that have questions for me on a more personal level has been really awesome, and I look forward to meeting more of you. My YouTube content has been rather inconsistent lately, but if you're one of those people that likes to read guides, I do have written hero guides that are pretty in-depth on my Discord. Make sure you add the COD role and the reaction roles. Now, on to the pets. To start off, we have the most obvious part of the pet system, the pet enclosure. This will display up to 7 of your pets at any given time, which you can select with the enclosure toggle in the pet info window. The pets displayed in your pet enclosure will gain affection as you interact with them when they have a heart over their head, and also cleaning the pet enclosure will give a small affection bonus to all pets displayed. It's important to note that having them displayed is how you're going to get them to level 2 affection so that you can actually deploy them with your legions. So make sure to prioritize any pets that are not level 2 affection yet in your display. Getting to affection level 5 with a pet allows you to rename that pet. In addition to cleaning the enclosure and interacting with the pets, you can also feed them different types of food that you get from the gift gacha, which you will find at the top right. If you're brand new to the game, this may not be visible for you until you complete the tutorial. As far as UI elements are concerned, in the top right from left to right respectively, you have your pet warrants, which allow you to capture pets in the open world, your exchange coins, which are used to purchase pet skills, your pet tokens, which are used in the gift gacha for various rewards, and finally your number of pets visible in the enclosure. In the bottom right, from left to right, is the skill auction house, which will eventually have player-to-player transactions, your pet skill cards that you currently own, and your list of acquired pets. The pet menu is where you will be spending a majority of your time. This is where the magic happens, or the sadness, I guess, if you're like me. I'm going to take a top-down approach at explaining this menu as there are a lot of moving parts to this. Starting at the pet's name and going down, we have the level of the pet. The level of the pet in the open world does not affect the pet's level at all whatsoever. When you capture a pet, it will always start at level 1 regardless of what level it was in the open world. The level of the pet in the open world directly influences the chances you get a good pet though, so catching higher level pets is definitely important. As your pet's level increases, all of their attributes will increase as well. The amount your attributes increase per level is directly related to your pet's base attribute stat value and their growth rate. The better a pet's rarity, the better its growth rate modifier is. This is why legendary pets are sought after, because they have significant stat advantages over lower tier rarity pets. You also have your pet's affection level and type, which are self-explanatory. Stamina is needed to deploy your pets with your legions. With the introduction to statues and ruins fights in Season 2, we now get hero stamina recovery speed as a buff. This will cause you to sometimes run out of pet stamina before you run out of hero stamina. Keep this in mind as it makes it useful to have multiple pets of the same type for your main marches. Finally, we have the enclosure toggle, which is the toggle mentioned earlier that places the pet into the enclosure so you can interact with it and generate affection for it. In the middle, we have the base attributes. The formula for the base attributes is base value plus growth rate times the war pet's level minus 1. In a more recent update though, the game does this math for you if you hit the swap button in the top right. These stats are very important. A general guideline for these stats is that the bigger the bar, the more important the stat is for that particular pet. It's also important to note that the size of the bar directly correlates with the maximum stat that a pet can achieve in that category as well. My personal goal is to get 30 or more base stats on a legendary pet in an attribute I want for me to consider it a good roll. Bottom right of the menu is the skill menu. I'm not going to go over what the best skills are for each pet, as I'll do that in future videos where I'll break down each pet individually, so make sure you subscribe if that is something you're interested in seeing. As a disclaimer, keep in mind that on almost all of my pets except a couple, they have the skills they started with when I captured them, and they are definitely not meant to be copied. A pet can have up to 8 skill slots, which is determined when you capture the pet. It is obviously important to make sure you get a pet with as many skill slots as possible. I would not consider skilling a pet with anything less than 6 slots personally, but your goal should be 7 or 8 slots in my opinion for most pets. The single most important skill any pet can have is their talent skill, which is represented with a gold border and also says talent in the top right in the tooltip when you click on it. As of the time of this video, you can only get a talent skill on a pet by capturing the pet in the open world, and you cannot get it in any other way. Each skill can have added stars, which increases the potency of the skill up to 3 stars. Each skill also has a small symbol in the top left of the icon that correlates with which attribute stat it scales with. Keep in mind, you can only have 3 of any given type of skill, and only the strongest skill will take effect in the case of duplicate skills. For example, if you have 4 pet skills that scale off of strength, the 4th one will get an exclamation point on it and will have no effect. If you have 2 of the same skill and one has a star and the other doesn't, only the one with the star will take effect. A recent update allows us to invest skill cards into locked skill slots to unlock them. This is the developer's way of giving us a more guaranteed way of adding skills to the pet without wasting big skill cards that seem to always want to replace our pet's talent. As you add skill cards into the slot, it will go up in progress, and at 100%, the most recently used skill card will be added to the new slot guaranteed. Keep in mind, though, that as you increase in percentage, your chances of unlocking the slot early also increase. If you prefer to just gamble to add skills to a pet, you can also do that by just adding the skills to the pet directly and hoping they go into the correct slot. It's important to understand that when you add a skill to a pet, it goes into one of the slots randomly. It will either replace an existing skill or unlock a new skill slot. If you choose not to replace an existing skill, the skill card is lost and there's no compensation. This makes for some pretty heavy RNG to the pet skill system, which I'm hoping they will further alleviate in future updates. When you're slamming skills into a pet, it has a higher chance of replacing existing skills than it does of being replaced in an empty skill slot. The chance of it replacing an existing skill is significantly higher. Alright, check it out. If you take one thing from this video, it needs to be what I say next. When you're trying to skill up your perfect ultimate pet, you have to fill all of the pet slots with low-cost skills before you start putting in your good skills. This is because since the game prioritizes replacing slots that are already filled with skills over empty slots, you have a very high chance of replacing your talent, which isn't something that can be afforded. To minimize the chances of this happening, you fill all the slots. Once you've filled all the slots, every slot will have an equal chance of being replaced, which also lowers the chance overall of your talent being replaced. This is a very confusing section, so feel free to reach out and let me know if you're stuck on it, but here's a very exaggerated example for further clarity. Let's pretend I have a pet with 4 skill slots and only one of them is filled, and it's the talent. The game says I have a higher chance of replacing existing skills over empty slots. Using random numbers here, we're going to assume that the chance is 75% chance to replace the talent and 25% chance to replace an empty slot. The odds are stacked heavily against us here. So we don't want to try and use our big shiny end of season 3-star skills right away. A better idea is to keep spending small amounts of exchange tokens on the lesser skills until we fill all the slots. Once all the slots are filled, the chance across all skills to be replaced is equal. Therefore, it would be a 25% chance to replace the talent skill instead of a 75%. The last thing to mention is skill inheritance, which is the box with an arrow located top right of the skills section. When you inherit skills, the pet on the left will receive all of the skills from the pet on the right. This will replace all of the receiving pet's skills with the pet selected, and the selected pet will be removed from existence. This costs 5,000 exchange tokens and is generally not really worth doing ever. The only time you will really make use of this function is if you have a pet with insane attributes already, but that pet has no talent or a bad talent. Then you can keep catching pets until you find one with a good talent and transfer that talent to the pet with the good attributes to help make a really good start for your pet build. Outside of that though, you really won't be using this feature as it's too expensive. Keep in mind your base stats, rarity, and number of skill slots can all be re-rolled using regeneration potions. Regeneration potions can be acquired in numerous ways such as the merit store, the monthly packs, the honor store, releasing pets, etc. Using these regeneration potions is advised once you find a pet that has at least a 1-star talent. This is my opinion, however, and feel free to use them on 0-star talent pets, but personally, if you're free to play, it makes more sense to use these resources sparingly and be patient. I've gone over pretty much everything you need to know about the pet system, but one thing people ask me a lot about is how to know which pets to keep versus which ones to release. So I'll go over my thought process when I'm capturing pets. The first step I take is I look for a talent on the pet. If the pet does not have a talent, it is considered completely useless in my eyes since you cannot add a talent to a pet and the talent skill is generally the most useful skill a pet can have. If a pet I capture does not have a talent, I release it immediately regardless of its other skills. If the pet has a talent, then the next thing I look at is if I already own that specific pet with the talent and also the talent star level. If I already own that pet and it has a talent, I replace the pet with a new one if the new one has better stats or if the talent on the new pet is a higher star level. Although keep in mind that you don't need to worry about stats at all if you've already invested in the old pet with skills because you can just regenerate the pet. In my opinion, it's a good idea to focus on getting a talented pet for each of your primary marches, and then once you have that, work on specific pets to try and capture their talent at 1 star. Once you have a talent at 1 star, I think it's safe to invest in that pet. You could end up capturing a 2-star talent pet, which would eventually become your new main, but because of stamina limitations, you might need multiple pets of the same type anyways, so your old 1-star pet will still be useful. So there's your Pet 101 breakdown. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, consider subbing. Also, I'm curious to know what your favorite pet is and what pet you would want to see a guide on first, so let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you all, and until next time.